I just saw a couple days ago, United Airlines, which is one of the largest American airlines, has announced they're going to put Starlink in its entire fleet of 1,000 planes. And they're going to have high-speed internet for free in 1,000 of their planes. And I just want to show you a little bit about what United says that'll look like, because if it is indeed high speed, imagine streaming video calls or whatever from the plane. Take a look.
All systems are go. Transmission starting in 3, 2, 1.
That's Elon Musk. You and I think of Elon Musk perhaps as the Twitter guy, and it's true because we're Twitter-centric, but I tell you, a lot more people are probably being touched by him through his global, cheap, reliable internet. And of course, the rocket ship company that puts all those satellites into space, that's how Starlink works, just this week, like just a couple days ago, they had a private space flight to the International Space Station. Did you know that's happening? I find that sort of incredible. SpaceX launches 4 private citizens, including 2 Saudis, on commercial flight to the space station. That was last year. So he's been doing private space flights for more than a year. But what happened just this past week is a 4-person private mission to do a spacewalk. And at 1,400 miles from Earth, it was the farthest anyone had been away from the planet in nearly 50 years. Imagine that, a private spacewalk. So you're not just going up and down for a few minutes. You're going up there. You're in orbit. You undo the hatch and you go out. And it's just astonishing. And this is the free market. Take a look at them opening the hatch. Would you be a little scared? They did it.
There is our first view of the forward hatch, wide open to space.
And then take a look at them actually doing the spacewalk, emerging from this private rocket ship and doing a spacewalk.
Emerging
Copy, we're with you at Test Matrix 1, watching from the nose cone.
Up, down, left, and right are 3s. Pitch and roll are 3. Yaw is a 2.
And you know, because you've got the design mind of Elon Musk, and he does things aesthetically, the rocket ships are pretty, the Teslas are pretty. He made some pretty cool spacesuits too. Would you agree with me? Those are his private sector spacesuits. I don't know. It's sort of amazing. It's serious stuff, though. It's fun to talk about, and it's a little bit inspirational. But here is a chart of all the companies and governments in the world putting stuff into space. And SpaceX puts more than 90% of everything the Earth sends into space. That company does. But if you look, you'll see who's next and who's next behind that. If not for SpaceX, which is by far number 1, number 2, as you can see in the chart, would be China. If you take Elon Musk out of the picture, China is winning the space race. And then after China would be Russia. And then after Russia would be Japan. And then after Japan would be India. And only then do you have something called the United Launch Alliance. That's Boeing's mess. As you know, Boeing can't get their spaceship up to rescue the 2 astronauts from the space station. And then they magnified, if you understand that chart there, you can see even bad guys like Iran on there, and an Iranian terrorist group is on there. So, like I say, you and I might think of Elon Musk as the Twitter guy, as the freedom of speech guy, maybe as the Tesla guy, and those are all important things. but he's actually the leading astronaut executive of our age. And if you had any doubts about that, they just did a spacewalk with private sector everything, and NASA can't get off the ground. You know, I saw a TV show on Apple TV, and I was on a plane and I had nothing to do, so I watched it, and I was hooked in the first minute because they sort of did a trick on you. And it's not really a spoiler. It's the premise for the whole show. Let me show you the trailer for a TV series on Apple TV called For All Mankind. And it's about, you know, going to the moon. Can you watch this trailer? I'm going to play 50 seconds of it. But really pay attention to the last 5 seconds, because that totally got me. Take a look at this.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
After thousands of years gazing up in the heavens and dreaming of this day, a man is about to set foot on the moon. Across the world, people wait with bated breath. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a live signal. There he is. The shock across the nation at this event is just indescribable. The Soviet cosmonaut has become the first to set foot on the moon.
Now, I watched too much of this series because I was on the plane a lot. Actually, I think I just watched like 4 episodes back to back now that I think about it. The theory, the premise behind the show is that in the great space race, the Soviet Union gets to the moon just before America does. And you know, if a few things had gone a different direction, they just might have. Remember, they had Sputnik and they had Yuri Gagarin before NASA had its effort. And what's interesting is, based on the premise that the Soviets get to the moon first, everything else that follows America's playing catch up. And I have to say, even though it was sort of dull and slow moving in parts, this TV series, For All Mankind, they were absolutely realistic in this way. The whole American project was dominated by bureaucracy and politics. And they had a huge emphasis, I'm talking about in the show, of gender and race and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I thought, that is so spot on. And compare that to the reality of Elon Musk running circles around not just NASA, but the Chinese and the Russian and the Indian and the Japanese space programs. The difference between a can-do engineer in the private sector versus these government bureaucracies is astonishing. If you want to see the anti-Musk, watch that Apple TV show. You're wondering, what am I doing talking about Musk so much? Well, back to the news of the day. Remember I mentioned Canada's getting some internet for our north? Here's the global news headline. The Canadian government announced a loan of $2.14 billion to help a Quebec company. Really? Is it a Quebec company? I'll come back to that. Build a broadband satellite network that will connect more remote communities to the internet. And of course, that announcement was over the weekend. It was timed, as you may know, for today's by-election. Do you know there are 2 by-elections today? One of them in Montreal, in the district of La Salamard-Verdun, which used to be Paul Martin's riding way back in the day, and it was where David Lametti, the crooked justice minister, was from before he sort of skulked out of Parliament. Anyways, so this announcement was made on the weekend to try and buy some votes with $2 billion. And Michael Barrett, an MP for the Conservatives, well, he used Twitter the way it ought to be done. He said, hey, Elon Musk, how much would it cost to provide Starlink to every Canadian household that doesn't have high speed? If this $2.14 billion plan is the panacea of expanding access, competition, and service, where is the interest from private investors and banks? That's always a good argument, which is, if this is such a good idea, Why don't other people think it's such a good idea besides Trudeau throwing his money around? And would you believe it, Elon Musk, perhaps the busiest man in the world, if he's not building cars, he's building spaceships. He's not building spaceships. He's building internet. He's got another company called the Boring Company that builds tunnels. He's got another company called Neuralink. Believe it or not, he responded and he said, less than half that amount. But it's not just that. It's less than half that amount, and it's ready now, and it's proven to work now. It's not some loan to some friends of Trudeau to buy some election votes, and maybe in the future it'll work. It's ready now. I know that because I took a little Starlink from Vancouver to Maui, and I used it, and it was amazing, and it was $200. Anyways, Barrett, the MP, wrote back to Elon Musk saying, sounded like common sense. Yeah. Like I say, and it works, and it's ready, so it's not speculative. But of course, what Michael Barrett and what Elon Musk don't understand, or maybe they actually understand it perfectly, is that spending more from a government point of view is the point of things. It's not a problem. It's why they do things. Again, that's the difference between how Elon Musk operates his companies versus how NASA in that TV show I was referring to. I mean, when Elon Musk took over Twitter, you'll recall, he fired 80% of the staff, the folks who just did DEI stuff and all the soft stuff that they weren't engineers. They didn't actually run the company. They were like barnacles on the ship. He fired them all and focused on engineering. And what you have to understand is that when you buy something through the government, those barnacles, those extra jobs, those perks, those soft things, that's what it's all about. It's a feature, not a bug. It's how politics works. If you are spending twice as much money as you need to get something done, you and I as taxpayers would say, oh my God, that's insane. But from a politician's point of view, you're thinking, I am the sugar daddy bringing home billions of dollars to my district, and I want to brag. I want that number to be bigger. Can we get it even bigger? Can we get it even bigger? It's how politics is done.